we've talked obviously, Ben, a lot about your college and Olympic career, right? 2 NCAA titles, Olympic gold medal. You talked about the fact you didn't win a Wisconsin high school state title. Does that mean that winning a Wisconsin high school state title is a bigger accomplishment? Obviously, clearly I'm joking, right? But the reason I ask that is my guess in your days coaching and mentoring young men, you've probably pulled many high school wrestlers off to the side and told them your story, right? Hey, I never won a high school state title. When you did that, what were the lessons that you were trying to teach those, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boys and young men?
I tell them this repeatedly, that the challenge that they're taking on as a high school wrestler in a state like Wisconsin is incredible. And of course, the age and development is all going to be put into this. But I like telling them this, not my story, only that about my brother John. He never qualified for a high school state tournament, and yet he's Olympic champion. And you stay at it. You keep learning. You enjoy something. You put your heart into it. You'll keep developing. But if you're going to always keep looking and say, well, I got to get this certain level or I'm a failure, then you're going to be disappointed along the line, and you're going to stop before you ought to. And I just think of this. There was 2 key places that John almost quit wrestling. One of them was right after high school when he was so disappointed that he didn't qualify for the state tournament. And he'd been training all year long. He was going to be a state champion. Maybe I should tell you this, that the guy he lost to in the semis of the sectional won the state tournament the next week. But he was so disappointed with that loss, he couldn't come back to be the true second, because 2 guys qualified for the state. He couldn't come back and beat that man, though he'd beaten him easily earlier in the season. And he knew this. He dealt with it later on. He says, I could not come back from that loss. He did the same thing in college. He wanted to be a national champion in the NAIA. And he ends up losing and then losing again in the wrestleback so that he got 5th. And at those 2 junctures, he was so disappointed with what he'd done, he says, I don't ever want to wrestle again. Well, what's crazy is he comes home with that disappointment, and I'm going to go to the national training camp with our world team, and we're roofing houses in northern Wisconsin every day, and the conversation keeps going to wrestling, and he's helping me get ready for this training camp. And I began to realize this, John's smaller than me, but if I'm not dead serious at every moment, he beats me. He takes me down. I just won the NCAA championship. This guy had to come with me. So I started telling him that. And if you want to look in my book, there's a whole chapter really that goes through John dealing with that whole situation that year. Before the year was over, he was on our U.S. World Team. He was the world team member. And I wasn't, he was. So he stayed at it. And that's over and over again, people get discouraged and they don't get over that. And then they stop too soon.
Yeah, well, you talk about in John's journey. I know this interview is about you, and you just kind of alluded to it, right? So John took 5th in the NAIA in 1971, and probably 16 months later, he was Olympic silver medalist, right, in Munich. I mean, that's the improvement had to have been just, a really steep curve. But you were witness to it before he even went to that training camp in 71, it sounds like.
Yes. And I saw him have to change his mindset. But we say this about him at the training camp which was at the Naval Academy. First, initially, we were down in Florida for Pan Am training camp, and then we went to the Naval Academy for the World Team. And the guys who were around him, whenever we talk about that, they were there at that training camp, they said, well, he was improving every day. No, every hour. And we were seeing that. It was like every hour the guy's confidence just kept getting better and better. He just loved the setting of all those guys that were training. Gable had said to me earlier, he says, John just needs to get around people that can build his confidence. And you know, in college, in high school and college, he was around people to build his confidence to a certain level. And then it kind of just plateaued. And Gable saw that. He just needs to go to another plateau. And then he'll do it to another level. And of course, that's exactly what he did.
Yep, sure. He sure did.